Ohio! Wait, was that? I should introduce myself. Okay, hold on. That's not. That wasn't right. That wasn't right. Oh. Is this presentation gonna be perfect? So now that the overall expectations for this presentation are lowered dramatically, perfection as imposed by society, by Amari D. So, what is perfection? Well, perfection is the state of being flawless, without faults. There are some pros, and then there are some cons. The pros are, you are unparalleled, you are absolute. Nobody can match you within this society. Though some cons are, it's unobtainable. They deter your physical, your social, and your mental state of beings. So that brings to today's question. How are mental strain and physical expectations tied to the socially constructed concept of perfection, and how does it lower one's morale within the state polity of the United States of America? Perfection is a concept imposed by society that is meant to conform an individual to standards that fit the mass the best. This deters one's mental and emotional state when that placement isn't achieved, which inevitably affects their physical state of being. So by Kern and Hill, perfection isn't just a mental disorder. Perfectionistic tendencies are within each and every one of us. And perfectionism is imposed best by society through social usage. It has a 32% increase since the past years, meaning that this raw data suggests that young adults are pressured by social media to conform to individuals that they see, and it deters them physically, mentally, and emotionally. This study was taken throughout 3 countries abroad, in the United States, Canada, and Britain, and over 100,000 college students were examined. So, by Owen and Paul A. Sellers, they analyzed 10 different elite athletes. These 10 different elite athletes had perfectionistic tendencies. To analyze the chart, number 1 participant on a 5-point scale had the overall best organization, which means the performance in terms of this analysis. His personal standards were rather high, 4.7 on a 5-point scale. However, the social expectations of the perceived parental issues or perceived parental pressures was 2.11. Perceived coach pressures was 2.83, and his organization was the highest. Whereas if we go to number 2 participant, whose parental pressures on a 5-point scale was 4.22, and coach pressures was a 3.33. His overall organization was a 3, and his doubts about the action was approximately 4.8. Now, another example would be number 7, who has an organization of 5, and his parental and coach pressures are the lowest on the scale. This means that social expectations, in fact, lower your physical output. Social expectations just overall lower one's ability to perform. Perfectionism is a negative factor. So, how would it affect athletes that you already know? Jackie Robinson and Serena Williams, both professional black athletes who have taken the world by storm. Jackie Robinson is a professional baseball player, and he's known as one of the best black baseball players in the world. However, he didn't start like that. Jackie Robinson was depicted against because of his skin color. Social discrepancies told him that by the National Baseball League said that he couldn't play. His fans, his coach, his team, none of them would put him on the field, all because they expected him not to do great. They expected him to only be good at basketball, football, etc., just because of his skin color. Until he took the world by storm and he hit his first home run. Serena Williams is arguably the best female tennis player in the world. She is so talented that she can go into tournaments against males and still win. However, even she can't be perfect. An umpire at one of her tournaments sexually attacked her simply because over small mistakes that may or may have not occurred. She was outraged. She lost her composure. The expectations of being perfect, the expectations of doing so well, simply overtook her. And overall, her performance was lowered. So yes, emotional attachments and emotional determinants can affect your physical performance as well. So let's introduce some other imperfect solutions. First solution, cancel culture. Social media is the rave. Everybody loves it. And it's taking over by storm. So why not fight fire with fire? Whereas standardized tests, the second solution, they have got to go. With them being present, the stress and anxiety of being graded on a singular aspect to something that you may or may not excel at, something that you have to fight so hard to try to be, even though you're not, simply deters one's physical and mental state of mind. Though not every solution comes with cons. Not every solution has just pros. There are some cons. Cancel culture is unreliable due to there being no singularity in which involving perfectionistic tendencies. Meaning, think of men versus women. I'm sure you've all heard this phrase, kill all men, or the term super straight. Yes, those are some methods that people have tried to use to cancel each other out. Not very effective, but they're there. So trying to cancel perfectionism may or may not occur with this cancel culture. Whereas getting rid of standardized tests doesn't even come 100% of the. Even if we get rid of standardized tests, it doesn't mean that perfectionism is going to go away. Because if you look at Chick-fil-A, for example, it is $10,000 to buy a Chick-fil-A establishment. $10,000. So all you have to do is save up money and you buy a Chick-fil-A establishment and you're rich. Or so you would think. You need to be religious. You need to have a Bible. You need to be kind to people. You need to show that you go to church every day, etc., etc., etc. Not every individual does that. So if you're trying to get a job, you have to do things that you normally wouldn't do. You have to be a person that you normally wouldn't be. And that is yet another example of trying to appear perfect in front of others. So that wouldn't solve an issue. Therefore, the most reliable option that we have would be cancel culture. So, to cut it simply, stop being perfect. And for lack of better words, it's lame. Thank you. I'll take any questions that you may have.
I have two questions for you. First up, how did your research question evolve as you moved through this process?
Well, the research question that I had evolved because at first it was tailored to simply sports. I was looking at the aspect of how is there perfection in sports? How can I talk about sports? What can I do in terms of sports? And then I realized I wanted my question to be more broad. I needed my question to talk about an encumbering issue that affects everybody, whether you play sports or not. So as I did my research question changed from how does perfection affect sports to how is perfection imposed by society?
And if you had more time, what additional research would you do on this issue?
If I had more time, I would have loved to speak about the political issues within perfection, how the government imposes perfection on every individual, how the education system expects the student to be perfect. I would have loved to talk about how the job system expects every individual to be perfect. I would have even gone abroad to how Japanese models are supposed to dress a certain way, supposed to have a certain clothing, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like those would have been key factors in exploring the concept of perfection. Thank you.